Buen Camino, everybody. So we have finished our Camino along the Camino Frances. We got into Santiago yesterday, but now it's time for us to repack as we get ready to go to Bali, which we are very excited about. We did a packing video at the very beginning of what we were bringing, and we thought we would give you the update of which things we're really glad we brought with us, which things maybe we didn't need or might do things a little bit differently, just to give you an idea, based on our experience hiking the Camino Frances in June and July, what kind of stuff we needed and what kind of stuff you might want to bring yourself. I will put links to Amazon down in the description below the video in case any of the stuff that we brought with us is of interest to you, so you can check it out and see if it would work for you. So, want to go through what we brought?
Yep, let's start with the biggie, the backpack. So these are our backpacks. They are Nevo Rhino Advanced 45. They are sturdy, good backpacks, but they are not really meant for the kind of Camino we did.
No, so I would not recommend these particular packs. So we got these for traveling, just long term. We wanted to get a cheaper backpack to see if we liked this size because we were moving to a carry-on size. And when you're carrying your backpack from the airport to the hotel and then you stay there for a month before you have to carry it anywhere else, I'd never realized how poorly these fit us.
They are completely functional for what we use them for in the rest of our lives. But they don't really fit our backs.
Yeah, they were much too small. Once you start realizing how you want the pack to adjust on your back and where you want the weight to sit, because you're carrying it for 8 hours a day, these were too small for us.
We made it through.
Yeah.
But one thing that helped us make it through was a spacer.
This is the greatest thing ever. I didn't see anybody else using this, and I'm not sure why, because I 100% would recommend getting one of these. We just saw a Facebook ad, and so we decided to go for it and check it out. If you can tell, it's just made of plastic. It's super light. It doesn't weigh anything, but it goes, you fix it onto the backpack, and it just creates this little 1-inch gap between your back and the backpack so the air can move through.
And it really works. Our backs were always dry and cool and comfortable.
Yeah, even like in the Meseta when it was really hot, people would take off their backpacks and they were all sweaty. And I didn't really care about my back getting sweaty, but I didn't want the bag to get sweaty and smelly.
We had to fiddle with the way they say to adjust it, where we put our zip ties to hold it together. I also found at the bottom of my back, but not on Robb's back, I felt a little pain from the plastic pressing against me, so I had to put a padding there.
But with that padding, it was fine. And I do wonder if part of the reason, especially his, because he's skinny, part of the reason that his caused that little pain is because our bags were just a little too small. And so
we don't know if
they weren't adjusted, I think, in exactly the right way. But for what it did, I totally recommend that. Every time we go into like a albergue and the people working there would see it, they'd be like, what is that?
You haven't seen one.
They were interested in it. Something that's worth getting.
So other things we use to carry things around. This we got for free with breakfast in Roncesvalles. It had a lunch in it.
Yeah, we got the lunch to go, and it came in this.
And we kept this bag with us, and this was great for just running around town, or on the one day we didn't bring our backpacks with us when we sent our backpacks ahead. We carried this with water in it, and it worked great. So a small, easy to carry, cheap, lightweight alternate backpack could be helpful.
And that one wasn't even quality, and it still totally worked. Because once you're used to carrying a 20-pound backpack,
that's nothing.
That is nothing. And even just with those skinny little straps, it wasn't that uncomfortable. And we saw lots of people carrying them.
Your bum bag.
Yeah, we each got a little bum bag to carry like our passports and cash and important documents. And everybody talks about how important this is. So if you're in an albergue and you have to go take a shower or whatever, you can bring it with you. And the only thing I would say about this is if you're traveling as a couple or with a friend, we never use these because one of us would go to the shower and one of us would sit there with all of our stuff. So we never had to worry about carrying it with us. I think I probably actually wore this. I did it the day we sent our backpacks ahead because I wanted to keep my valuables with me. But all the rest of the days that I was carrying it, this whole bag just went into my other pack. You wore your a little bit
I would
more.
wear mine if I were walking around town and I didn't use that other backpack.
Your miles may vary. Some people really love having these. I didn't really care. I never used mine.
Yeah. Another thing we had with us for toting things is a reusable grocery bag.
We use these in our regular travel all the time. Definitely, they're so light and easy to pack away. If you're gonna go to the grocery store,
we ate in food from grocery stores a lot, and so I'd always bring a bag with me to carry it home, so I didn't have to buy plastic bags at the store. Other things we brought for luggage were the
Okay, so this will be a good transition. We got 5 of these dry bags just as a set from Amazon, and then we use them as packing cubes. I found this really useful because then not only did we have some separation in some way to like help plan how our bag was going to get packed, but then if it did rain or something, we knew everything that was in these was going to be dry and we didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, and we did have different kind of packing cubes for our toiletries also.
Yeah. So let's talk about clothing. I'm not going to go too much in detail here. This right here is everything that I wore. I'll fit into this. We brought each 2 shirts, 2 pairs of shorts, some underwear. I did bring 1 pair of pants. I never wore them. I carried them the whole way for nothing. And then we had a sleep outfit each. I had a t-shirt and a pair of shorts. You had those sweatpants and a shirt.
We also both had a sweatshirt
Yes.
for something a little warmer.
I did bring a sweatshirt, and one thing I'm going to say is this is my color blindness, but when I bought this in the store, I thought it was blue, like deep blue, and then I got out in the sunshine on the Camino and found out it was purple. I had no idea, but I had a purple sweatshirt. Now, the sweatshirt I wore every single day. I would definitely bring something to keep warm because even in June and July, when you get up in the morning, it is cold. So definitely I liked having this. And then when I wasn't wearing it, I could wrap it around my waist and use it as padding for the backpack. So this was really good for me. But whatever clothes you bring, just remember you want things that can dry really easy.
Fast.
Because you're gonna get in for the day after you're done hiking, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, wash what you wore and hang it up, and then you're gonna, wear your second outfit for the next day. But you need those clothes to dry because if they don't and you have to pack them away wet, it's just sort of a hassle.
Speaking of clothing and washing, we did bring a little tub of laundry detergent. Also, you're going to have to hang up your clothes to dry. We took the recommendation of bringing baby diaper safety pins, which I ended up not using because I realized most of our clothing was synthetic, so that it would dry quickly, and I didn't want to put holes in that material.
Yeah.
So I didn't really use these pins.
We used them here and there,
Just
pinning socks that hadn't dried to our backpacks.
I suggest bringing some clothespins with. Another item of clothing. We use rain tarps instead of rain jackets, which would go underneath your backpack. We like the rain tarp because it goes over us and our backpack.
Yes.
And we had 1 day of rain. We were so lucky.
We were lucky.
I don't
Only
know
one.
how we were so lucky.
We had a couple of sprinkles, but only one that actually turned into rain.
And our ponchos were fantastic. They were large enough to fit over us and our backpacks with our poles attached.
Yeah, they're really rugged, heavy duty. I mean, we've been using these for almost 2 years now, out about in the world. So we were used to them. They worked really well for the Camino.
Yeah. What do you have next?
So let's talk about shoes a little bit.
Okay.
So I brought a pair of Altra Lone Peaks. I think these are the 8s. I've had Altra shoes before, and I really like them. Now, I did get blisters, and for the entire first part of the hike, I was defending these shoes because I've worn these shoes before, rim to rim on the Grand Canyon and didn't have any problems. But I did get a lot of blisters, and so I can't get, I tried everything for blisters. I have no idea what caused them. I have no idea why some days they were better and some days they were worse. So I don't know if I do this again. I still think these are a really good pair of shoes. They're very comfortable for me. They have the wide toe box that I really, really like. I got these a size bigger than I usually wear, and they were very, very comfortable, but I did have some issues. So I'm not positive. I don't want to blame the shoes, but it might be, or it might be something totally different.
Yeah, because I have these shoes. They're Kip Runs. I bought these at a decathlon in France just before we started our trip. I tried them out for a few days on the trails before we started the Camino, and they were very comfortable. And I've never gotten blisters in my life, so I don't know if the shoes would have helped or hurt that.
It's hard because I'm very prone to blisters, and he has feet of steel that never get blisters. So who knows why and what causes things, but that was our experience. Real quick too, this sock is inside out, but I did get the Darn Tough brand. I had two pairs that were different. And one was just regular like ankle socks, and then there were these ones that have the longer ankle, and I really liked these socks. Now, because I liked this pair better, I wore them more often than the other pair, and these socks wore out. Like the last week or so, like they've just been falling apart every time we try and wash them. So if I had brought two pairs of these and were using them equally, I think it would have made it the whole time perfectly fine. But because I was basically wearing this pair of socks like 75% of the time, they wore out. The other ones didn't at all. But I really like this size ankle because they just come up a little bit higher on your ankle, so rocks and stuff. They still get in your shoes, but at least they don't
My
get under your
socks were all short socks, and I got a few more rocks inside my socks than I would have liked. So I would get longer socks.
We did bring, we each brought a pair of sandals. I have Tevas. You have a different kind of Teva. Because of my blisters, I didn't get to wear these as much as I wanted to, but there were days, especially toward the end when my blisters got better, that I did wear these. I also would wear them around town. It's a bit of extra weight to carry a whole extra pair of shoes, but I really liked having these. It's just give your feet a break. You know, I got a blister once on my heel. The sandals didn't touch the blister at all. So when I wore these that next day, that blister had a chance to heal. So I liked having the variety, but it is some extra weight. So it just depends on what.
For me, I loved having sandals too. I always pretty much wore my shoes when hiking, but as soon as I got to the albergue, I would switch to my sandals and spend the rest of the day on my sandals. And I like that.
We also brought one pair of flip-flops. These are just cheap little, I don't even know where we bought them, but you know, they're probably $2. Definitely recommended if you're in a space that has shared showers. That's pretty much the only time we ever use them. We just shared them in between us. Very light, very easy, but when you don't want to be barefoot in a shared shower, perfect thing to bring with you. Let's do sleep stuff.
Okay, sleep masks. We bought these sleep masks and we use them a lot. You're going to use them for sure in albergues where people are turning on and off lights. Even when we had private rooms, often there would be sheer curtains.
The sun doesn't go down until 10:30, so we're falling asleep, and then at like 11:30, that street light would come in and just like right there in the window. Sleep mask to the rescue.
I have a, what do you call this?
Sleeping
sack or sleeping bag liner. I got one that was wide all the way to the bottom, but did not have a zipper. It was easy for me to slip into. This one comes with a built-in pillowcase, which I did sometimes use, and that helped keep everything in place. I did like that it was wider. It wasn't the mummy shape, so that I could roll around at night and feel comfortable.
Now, I cannot sleep in a sack. I roll around a lot, and I like having my, you know, if I get warm, I like sticking my leg out kind of thing. So what I did, this is something I did as a backpacker and I really liked, is I brought a queen size fitted sheet. And this worked really well for me. And you can see it's pretty bulky, but it's not heavy, although I've also got a little blanket stuffed in here. This for me worked great because I could lay it on the bed, I could wrap it around me when I slept, and then I could take it off or put it on depending how cold it got. But it left me free so I could move around and not feel confined. I just get too claustrophobic in a sack kind of thing.
But the blanket, we both brought an airplane sized blanket.
Yeah, so it's pretty thin and small, But there were a couple nights where it got really cold and I was really, really happy to have that blanket. A lot of the private rooms that we stayed in, you know, came with blankets and
Even
sheets,
albergues
and we
come
didn't
with
need this.
blankets.
And some of the albergues did, but not all of them.
Not all of them.
And there were a couple of nights that would have been a lot more uncomfortable had we not had this extra little blanket. So we didn't use it every day, probably a handful of times only, the blanket, but I'm glad we had it because I would have been very
Yeah,
uncomfortable.
and I also used my blanket as a padding on my back sometimes. So,
Yeah.
so that was helpful in another way. Sometimes you can use things in ways you didn't know you were going to end up using them.
Yeah, but definitely you're going to want to have something to sleep in, especially if you're in those albergues, because some of them have some stuff and some of them don't. And so just to have something to protect yourself and potentially keep yourself warm is helpful.
Do sun stuff?
Okay, sun stuff.
Hats?
So we each brought a baseball cap, pretty straightforward. But what we paired with this was a bandana. Here, David, would you like to model?
I'll demonstrate. So we take the bandana, we put it over our head, we slip the hat on, boop, and there our ears and neck are protected from the sun.
There are a lot of days where you are out there in the sun and there is nothing to protect you.
And this really worked. We had no
Yes.
problems with our ears and our neck.
And so instead of having to slather on a lot of sunscreen all the time, we just put these on. It was easy and cheap. We each had a pair of these sun sleeves. This was something that we bought last second. We were like, we'll give it a try because they were really cheap, but they just slide on your arm and cover your arm from the sun. And these were amazing. So I'm someone that hates wearing sleeves. I can't wear long sleeve shirts. I feel uncomfortable. Yeah. And so having these on where I could put them on when I was in the sun, but then if I went into a cafe, I could take them off. Or if we, did find a grove of trees, I could take them off for a little bit. I really liked having the flexibility. You could just get a long sleeve shirt and that would work as fine
plenty
too.
of lotion.
Or lots of sunscreen again.
But we saw a lot of really red arms and legs and necks.
So what we would see is people who had clearly had a sunburn and then they would put on something a little bit smaller so that it didn't aggravate the sunburn, and then they would burn again, and then they would put on a tank top, and then they would burn again, and they just had these like layers of sunburn, like not learning their lesson. So you definitely want to make sure you have a sunscreen plan of how to protect yourself from the sun. These sun sleeves are cheap. We got really cheap ones, and these have kind of started to fall apart a little bit after 38 days. But we wore them every single day for, 6 to 8 hours on the trail. Highly recommend these. We each brought a little, mine is a washcloth that I got
mine
at Walmart.
is a microfiber.
Yeah. Just something little, and then we cut it in half because it was too big and mine's kind of fraying. But I really liked having this because when you're out there and I get sweaty, I just like something that I can mop my brow with. That I like a cotton thing for this. They don't dry well. They were a little harder to wash, but I didn't use them that much because most of the time it was cold.
I like the microfiber. It feels good to me. Also, I have a runny nose issue because of my allergies. And this didn't irritate my nose and make it all red. So that helped.
That probably would have.
Yeah, that would have. These ones I used a lot. If I started to feel my straps were hitting my collarbones too much, I could just slip it underneath the strap and it helped pad that a little bit too.
Two other things I brought. One, this is like a buff, but it's a winter buff. Like it's thick and, it's just made of cotton. And when we've gone to winter places, I've used these a lot. I threw this in at the last second and I was so glad I did because when we got to Galicia and it got colder, I would use this in the morning. I just fold it in half and wear it around my ears. It's actually a chilly morning. I had to put on my warm hat, keep my ears warm today. And I was really, really happy that I had this. So it just depends on how sensitive you are to cold. Would you have used this if you had had one? No. I don't know if you would have needed it.
I wouldn't have used it.
I'm sensitive to the cold. If my ears get cold, I'm in a bad mood. So I was really happy that I had this. Now, one thing that I would not bring again, it's like a cooling rag. So we got these years ago when we went to like Disney World, and it's just a little, it's like scarf You know, it's pretty long, and you just get it a little bit wet, and then, you know, you can put it here or wrap it around your neck. I did use this when we went to Egypt in the summer, and we would get it wet and I just wrap it around my neck, and it's pretty good for cooling you down. I never got hot enough on this hike that I would have needed to use something like this, so it just sat in my bag the whole time. Maybe if we were here in August, I do hear people talk about it getting really, really hot then, but I don't think it ever got over 90 degrees for us. It was usually in the 70s. Sometimes it got up into the 80s, and I was really happy when it did, because that to me is comfortable. But it never got hotter than that. So if you're not anticipating temperatures above 90s, I wouldn't bring this.
I'll go through this little cup of doodads. I brought all of this. First of all, a notepad. I use this all the time to take notes on where we were going, where we were staying, just so I had something quick and easy on me.
All the birds that we saw.
All the birds. And so, of course, I had a pencil to go with the notepad. We also brought a pen, because you never know when you're going to have to fill out some kind of paperwork.
Yeah.
And we brought a Sharpie. And this is very convenient if you are staying at an albergue and you buy something you want to put in the refrigerator. You can mark your name and put it on it and put it in the refrigerator, and hopefully nobody eats it.
Yes.
We also had a corkscrew. This is massive, and I know, but it was the only one we could find while we were out on the road. So we lugged this around with us, but we used it a bit.
You would think in a place like this where there is so much great wine that you would be able to go to any store and find a corkscrew. And like, where were we? In Burgos, in a big city. And I
went to wine-specific stores and they didn't have anything to open wine. Finally, some supermarket found it. So.
At least that was very light, so it didn't weigh anything, but it was very bulky.
We also brought 2 spoon-fork combos. These were very handy. We used these quite a bit. And last in this group, a pair of scissors. We ended up using them all the time.
Yeah.
For Robb's
blister stuff. So whether I was cutting the tape or the different kinds of bandages that I tried, we use those scissors all the time. But then we use them other times too, like when we cut our sweat rags in half. They were very, very useful.
What do you have?
Okay, this is one that I highly recommend. So this is a teeny tiny, what is this? Sea to Summit. Their Airlite towel. We got the large size, and again, it's going to depend on where you stay. So if we were in a private room somewhere, we almost always were given towels. But any of the times we stayed in an albergue, I don't think they ever gave us a towel. No. And so you got this little thing, and then you pull out this giant towel out of it, and this is the best towel. So this is not a luxury experience kind of towel. Like when you're wet and trying to dry yourself, it doesn't feel good. You know, it kind of slides a little bit over your body, and it doesn't feel absorbent.
But the water comes right off.
But it is really absorbent. And then once you hang it up, it dries really fast. So this is the large size. If you wanted something smaller, you could, but I mean, you can see how small the bag was. It weighs nothing and it's super small. So I would highly recommend this as a option to get a towel for you to bring with you. Yeah. This is something that we ended up never using. However, I would still bring it just in case we had gotten food poisoning or something and needed to go to the bathroom out on the trail. We brought some toilet paper, which we did use this sometimes to like blow our nose or whatever.
For other things.
We bought
roll of doggy bags
so we could have picked stuff up because of course you want to leave the Camino in better condition than you found it. So you don't want to leave toilet paper out in a field somewhere or behind a tree. You want to bring something so that you can pack all that out and throw it away in an appropriate place. And then I just had a little thing of wipes as well. We never ended up having to use this, but I'm totally glad we had it with us because if we needed that option in an emergency, it would have been good to have. The toilet paper too, just know sometimes there's public bathrooms along the way, especially in like the cafes, but sometimes they won't have toilet paper. So again, just good to be prepared.
Yes. Water bottles. You're definitely going to need water bottles. Mine is a milk bottle I got in France. Like 2 months ago. So this has been doing its service.
So his is 1 liter. The one that I had was 1.25 liters, just a little bit bigger. And they worked perfectly fine for us. It was enough water. We could refill them in the cities as we went along.
I'd say most people probably had like a more solid water bottle that I saw.
If you have something that you like, or if you're worried about keeping it cold or whatever, you could bring something nicer. These worked perfectly well for us.
Here's something no one's going to care about except for me. I brought a pair of binoculars. They were super heavy. Watching birds is important to me, so it was worth it. So if you have something that you want to bring with you, even if it's heavy, if it's something you care about and will use every day, bring it.
So we had a couple of bags of toiletries, and your toiletries, you're going to bring whatever you need to have for you. This was sort of just our little bathroom bag, and it's got, shampoo and deodorant and that kind of stuff, toothbrushes. One thing that you might want to think about is a razor. So as you can tell, David brought a razor.
I used it every day.
And I did not. I just kind of let things go. This is the craziest my beard has ever been. Let me know in the comments if you think I should keep it or if I should shave it off. I haven't decided yet. But so whatever you need to bring, I don't think we need to go through specifics.
No.
Sunscreen, we brought 2 different kinds of sunscreen. I like this Neutrogena Ultra Sheer. It goes on just less greasy than some of the other ones do. And this is what I always pack with me. This we really only had to use like on the backs of our legs and maybe on my hands where the sun sleeve didn't reach. But everything else we had covered. So we didn't use 1 bottle of this was enough, and it worked for the 2 of us. And then we brought this All Good tinted sunscreen. And again, the 2 of us using it, like it's not even halfway gone. But we just used right on our face. Sometimes the sun comes around, we didn't want to burn on our face. This is a little bit greasy, but it's thick. I liked it and it worked. I never got a sunburn on my face.
Neither of us ever burned. So apparently it was doing its job.
Yeah. And then do you want to talk about your allergy stuff?
I just bring an over-the-counter medicine pill, an over-the-counter nasal spray, and I have just regular eye drops for everyday use, and I brought some allergy eye drops for when things got worse.
Yeah. And then ibuprofen.
And ibuprofen.
Bring lots of ibuprofen. They call it hiker's candy. We used quite a bit of it just for aches and pains.
Bought a whole bottle right now.
We had this bottle and we filled it like to the brim as much as we could stuff in there. And we finished this off maybe 3/4 of the way between the 2 of us and had to start buying it more. And you can find ibuprofen. There's pharmacies everywhere. But it's a little bit more expensive when you're, buying it in small quantities. So I would definitely just plan ahead that you're going to want to use ibuprofen or acetaminophen if you prefer that. Bring enough that you're going to have that to use. The other ridiculous bag that I have is this. And this bag is full of all of the different things I tried for my blisters because I tried everything. Anytime someone would recommend something, I would go and get it and try it. And in the end, nothing really seemed to work other than rest. But I tried a lot of different things. So, I had Band-Aids, I had Compeed, I had the foam stuff, I tried double socks, I tried the Body Glide.
Lamb's wool.
Like, if we could find a different kind of dressing, I would buy it and give it a shot. And some things worked sometimes, and then it wouldn't work another time. And, I could not make any hide or hair of it.
Tape, wrap.
So this bag got a little bit big and ridiculous. And I probably could have purged as I went along, but I had the space in my bag, so I didn't really worry about it too much. Hopefully you will not need anything this large. I do have a couple of other things in here. Like I did bring some Pepto-Bismol, the chewable tablets. I really like these. I always travel with these. There was one day I needed them and I was very glad that I had them. I did bring an antacid if you need anything like that. Again, I only needed it one day, but I was glad that I had it that one day. Oh, and then fingernail clippers. Oh. So you do want to make sure you bring fingernail clippers because guess what? Your nails grow while you're out. And the last thing you want is a toenail getting too long and it starts to hit the front of your shoe, because that's going to give you a blister and could make you lose the nail. You want to make sure your nails are trimmed all the time. So bring a good pair of clippers so that you can cut your nails as you go along. Oh, our hiking poles. So hiking poles are one of those things that it's up to you whether you think you're going to want them or not. We were very much on the fence. What did you feel about the poles?
I used mine more than you did. And I wouldn't say I used them a lot. I used them on very hilly days, and I would use them on days when my hip was hurting a bit, and that would help support my weight. So I think they did come in handy. If you have hip or knee or joint issues, I think the poles would be of more use to you.
Yes. For me, I hate having things in my hands, and so I don't like the poles. However, when we got to those steep downhills, they completely saved my knees. So like coming into Zubiri, after Pamplona, after you hit that, what is it, the hill of the Alto de Perdón, that there was a really steep decline there. There was like 3 or 4 of them along the way where I was very glad to have them. But other than those downhill sections, I like tried it a couple times just to try and play with it, and I just didn't like them. So they were in my pack most of the way. But if you think you need them for balance, like the day coming out of Pamplona, it's not even so much that it was steep, but there were like river rocks. And so your footing was a little bit unsure. And so I was using them as much for my knees as I was for balance, just because my feet were a little bit unsteady. But then, you know, other days it was just really steep. So poles are up to you. What else do we have? So one other thing that I brought that I would probably not bring again, I had a friend who gifted me a pair of headphones, wireless earphones. And so I, downloaded some podcasts and stuff onto my phone so that when I got bored walking out on the Camino for so long, I would have something to listen to. And I never even thought about using these. We're not really people that get bored very easily. The scenery is amazing. My mind is always going 100 miles a minute. And so I never had any time where I was like, you know what, I need to have a podcast to pass the time. And so I would probably not bring these again because I wouldn't need them. However, if you're someone who likes to listen to music, please do bring something like this, because there's those people who just play their music for everyone to hear. And we were pretty lucky with that everybody who was playing music that I appreciated. However,
and mostly pretty quietly.
Yes.
But still.
If you want to listen to music, I encourage you to bring headphones. But if you don't care about it, I wouldn't bring this again. So that's what we brought. A lot of this stuff you can get on Amazon. I will put links down in the description below if you want to check any of it out and see if it would work well for you and your Camino. I know a lot of these videos are about bringing the fewest amount of things that you can so your bag is as light as possible. And in general, that is great advice. However, bring what you need to bring. So most people suggest carrying 10% of your body weight as a place to start. At 20 pounds, my bag was just a little bit over 10%, but I didn't really have any problems. Yours was more because you're skinny mini over here. Did you really have any issue with the 20 pounds?
No, my only problem is I could feel it in my hips. And if I had a little less weight, I probably would have been happier in the beginning. But as we got halfway or more through, I started to build some muscles there, and it started to hurt less. And I really didn't notice the weight at all the last few days, other than the bag fit issues.
Yes.
Like, I think if my bag fit perfectly, 20 pounds would have been no problem at all.
Yeah. We did have some electronics. We had our laptops with us, which I do not recommend bringing. We had some camera gear and other things like that. So our bags were heavier than they even needed to be, but I think we used almost everything that we brought, other than with a couple of little teeny exceptions that didn't really make any difference weight-wise. We used it all, and I'm glad that we had everything that we had. So you just have to decide what's appropriate for you. You can decide to send your bags ahead if you want. I bring the least amount that you can get away with, but just know you can bring what you need so that you're going to have the experience you want to have.
If you disagree with us about the usefulness of the items we brought, or if you brought anything that you absolutely needed and loved, let us know in the comments below.
Like I said, I will put Amazon links down in the description below if you want to check things out. We did a video every single day that we were walking the Camino, so if you are curious about that, I will put the link to the playlist right over here so you can check them out.